to do is set this up. We have a couple of recordings, and what we're doing is showing you what that mortgage solution looked like inside of Ephesoft. And then we're going to actually switch over and show you what it does inside of TotalAgility.
This is a brief demonstration to show you how TrailheadAI Bridge can move the configuration from an Ephesoft Transact implementation over to TotalAgility. Here you're inside of Ephesoft Transact and you're looking at a batch class for mortgage. Inside of that batch class, you're going to see about 298 different document types, many of which have different fields. So these are the metadata fields for a particular document type. If we look at some in-flight documents that are getting processed by that batch class, we can see that I have one staged inside of review, and we can see that it's doing classification of those different document types, both single pages and multi-pages. And this was originated from a single PDF, so it's doing the classification and separation. After that step, you can see that in validation, that it also brought over different metadata fields.
So what we did was we had this concept of how can we retain the functionality when we're moving over from a Ephesoft Transact implementation over to TotalAgility, and what can we do? So the first thing that we do is we pull over information, and that's kind of two sets of information. One of the sets that we're going to pull over is for the Analyze product that Tom was talking about. So that's going to take a look at what kind of batch classes do you have? What kind of historical performance have you been having in the sense of validation and review, and then be able to review that with you, be able to see, is this still necessary? Are you using this batch class? But more than that, like, do you want to deprecate 10 of the 50 document types, because it turns out that those are not used anymore, and so we can use this to kind of clean house. Can you go to the next? From that point, from the artifacts that we pull over that are for the actual bridge process, we push them over to two different things. One of them is side of TotalAgility, and we can speak to that kind of nomenclature differences. But basically, we're creating that business process, which is going to be corollary to that batch class. We're going to be pulling in the document types. We're going to be pulling in the metadata fields for those document types and automatically generating those off the configuration you had inside the batch class. The second piece to that is what we're pushing over to TrailheadAI. As discussed before, what we're doing is we're getting those rules for how we extract that information. We'll first classify and separate that information, and then also for the extraction rules. What's really cool about this is that it's kind of changing how we're doing the extraction. And what I specifically mean by that is by using TrailheadAI ingest, what we're doing is using generative AI. And so whereas before you might have a particular field and you have 30 different extraction rules, and those extraction rules you're balancing with some sort of weighting mechanism to be able to understand what you're going to extract and how you're going to extract it, making sure that it doesn't do the wrong thing with high volume type of documents or variations of the documents. Since we're using generative AI, we don't have to worry about that as much, because we're actually using that as a human would to say, give me a date of birth, give me a policy number. And there's more understanding of how to obtain that information without having to look to these various key value or other mechanisms that you're using to be able to extract it, regular expressions. So go ahead and go to the next one. And then once we create that configuration, both inside of TotalAgility and inside of TrailheadAI ingest, we have integrations that we've created to do that communication back and forth. And so when we're doing the classification separation, we can use that previous configuration that we've now pushed to TrailheadAI. Same thing goes with the extraction of being able to ask for that. And we can refine that also inside of Trailhead AI. So if there's something that we could improve for better automation, maybe something, because since we're using a different concept of how we're actually doing the classification separation as well as extraction, then we're going to be able to work with you to be able to make those refinements and those improvements. And so next, go ahead and go to the next, and then we're going to be queuing up the video. What does it look like when we actually create those different components inside of TotalAgility? So if you remember correctly, that was the mortgage. And so now it's that same mortgage now inside of a business.
Now, after running the Trailhead AI bridge, we can see the items created inside of TotalAgility. There are several items created inside of TotalAgility, including aspects around the content model in the extraction group. So we can see all the different document types, as well as the metadata fields are created inside of the extraction group. There are other items like the classification groups, the various forms, the site, and of course the business process, which is going to be mapping back to the batch class inside of Ephesoft Transact. This business process is going to utilize the Trailhead AI classification and extraction. Now, if we look inside of the site, we can see that same sample running through the new configuration inside of TotalAgility. We can see that there's both multi-page as well as single-page documents created inside and ready for review. And we can also see that the extraction occurred for those metadata fields that were also inside of TotalAgility. This concludes the demonstration of Trailhead AI Bridge.